All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are excited to continue our Shopify webinar series that we're doing here. This is now our second video on the Shopify point of sale specifically. Today's webinar is going to be all about multi-location retail, multiple retail locations, merchandising, all the kind of craziness that goes along with that. We are definitely very excited this time around to have another representative from Shopify here helping us out. So with that said, why don't we just go ahead and say hi to the team here that's going to be helping you out here today. Say hi, everybody. So Alexandra, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Dean. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. I am a retail specialist here at Shopify. I am looking forward to today's webinar.
Cool, Patrick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick, Director of Business Development here at Sunrise Integration. I will be moderating the chat, so please keep the questions coming. And looking forward to chatting about point of sale, merchandising, multi-location, and everything we've got on the docket today.
Cool, thanks, Patrick. And my name is Dean. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Sunrise Integration, and I'll be the one kind of walking you through all the screens and everything. But as Patrick said, if you have questions, definitely feel free to put them in the chat. Patrick will be there, and Patrick, also don't kind of sell yourself short here. You're also going to be the man in charge of some of these really cool prizes that we're going to be giving out here, where we've got some fun kind of Q&A things happening here. Do you want to kind of show us some of the crazy stuff we've got to give away today?
Of course, yeah. So just as a quick preview, we'll be following up on today's webinar with a little pop quiz. So keep an eye out for a follow-up email, also with the recording of the meeting today, or the webinar today. And if you are the first to reply with the correct answer, we will have for you a Sunrise Integration hat. We've got a Shopify notebook. We have a Shopify door hanger light box with whiteboard pen, and we're always looking for creative uses for this. So if we send it to you, please let us know how you figured out how to use it. And then also, we've got this Shopify multi-tool that includes a tape measure. It's got levels. It's got a flashlight. It's got all sorts of doodads and widgets on it. So yeah, keep an eye on your inbox, and we'll send this out ASAP if you get the question right.
And the winner gets all of that, right? You get the whole
all of it.
Box of good
all
stuff.
Of it.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. Yeah. So definitely look out for that. Feel free to be attentive in the chat, and we'll make sure that somebody gets a box of goodies for sure. So what is today going to be about? Let's talk about that. As I mentioned up front, this is the second video in our point of sale series that we're doing. Next week, we're going to be talking about checkout. This week, it's all about multi-locations. So we're going to talk a little bit about retail stores that have when we say multi-locations, we're talking about multiple physical locations. So not necessarily just like online and like a retail store, but having a store, maybe in California and another store in another part of California or Oregon or Arizona, right? Where you truly have like multiple locations. And then what are the issues with that, right? What are some of the problems that occur when all of a sudden now you've got, multiple geographic locations to deal with? We're going to talk about Shopify's locations specifically, so how you can use Shopify's locations to basically set up all the different stores and use the administration as your kind of like unified commerce solution. We're going to show you how to create those locations. Then we're going to show you how to assign inventory to those locations. So once you kind of create everything, you want to be able to send inventory and transfer inventory to those locations. And then lastly, we're going to talk about merchandising across those locations, right? So now that you've got these stores set up and now you've got inventory, now that you're transferring inventory, you want to be able to sell at each of those locations. And different geographic stores are going to have different trends and different types of customers. So you're going to want to try to figure out, well, what do I put out on the shelf? What sells better in California versus something, maybe up in Oregon, right? So you want to find a way to be able to track that. And we'll show you some really cool ways that you can do that. And of course, throughout the entire process, Q&A, we very much encourage anybody to ask questions on the chat. And you got a team of experts here to definitely answer your questions for you. So let's jump right into it and start by talking about multi-location and some of the problems and issues that actually go along with that. So at first glance, you might think, well, is it really that difficult, right? You got a store, you have another store, and the stores kind of run themselves. Well, really, there's a lot more to it. So one of the first obvious things is the geography, right? If you have a retail location, you may be across 3 different states, for example, like we're seeing on the screen here. You may have different trends in your California store versus Oregon versus Arizona, right? Arizona's really hot, so you're probably not selling a lot of sweaters there. Oregon might be a little bit colder, so you're going to be selling something different. So right off the bat, the geography of those stores, you have to kind of think about what that store is going to sell and what's in that store. Also, the team that you're going to hire for that store. You have to think about things like taxes, right? You can have different tax requirements. So you can see as you start going to multiple stores, these other things that you have to start thinking about. And usually, if you've got a store in a bunch of different locations, you might just set up a computer and kind of get things going. You might not necessarily think about unifying the locations. So each of these shops could be running an entirely different point of sale. You could be running a different inventory system. And once you start growing and you start thinking about it, you're going, well, wait a minute. How do I get my stock information? How do I get quantity information if I've got all these different shops? Well, that's definitely something you need to think about. And that's one of the first places or problems that really arise, which is, well, how do I handle my inventory? How do I handle my products? I need to know, your accountant, right? The bookkeeper, the money person is going to want to know, well, how much are you selling at California? How much are you selling in Oregon? How much are you selling in Arizona? So this is important information that you need to know. You have to be able to track your products. You have to be able to track the inventory with those products. So this is yet another thing, kind of exponential problem that pops up when you're dealing with multiple locations. So in addition to products, you also have to think about customers. So now you're going to have customers purchasing from those different locations, and now you're going to start gathering information from those customers. And like I mentioned earlier, some stores might have subtly different trends in terms of what sells well or what works at those locations. So there's important information, sales information, that each of these locations is gathering. So you're going to want to look at that. You're going to want to know what is selling well here, what is selling well there. And if you don't have kind of a connected ecosystem, you've got a lot of kind of disparate information. So how are you going to put it all together in order to make kind of properly informed decisions? So again, this is another problem that arises when you have multiple locations. And another thing that pops up that sometimes people don't think about, but it's how do you actually get product to those stores, right? You've got to stock the store. You have to put items on the shelf. How do you get it there? How do you actually ship stock? How do you ship inventory? How do you make sure that all these stores have the appropriate products? You have to be able to centralize your data, get products from your wholesalers, transfer product to the appropriate locations. There's a whole kind of juggling act that needs to happen. And so these are just some of the things that are, some of the most obvious things that you have to think about. Products, inventory, customers. Wow, things get complicated very, very quickly. And we've certainly seen kind of out in the real world where stores that don't have, or multiple, retail locations, merchants who have multiple locations who don't have a unified system start running into problems really, really quickly. I'd like to kind of throw it back to the team here and kind of get some insights to see if you have any kind of, I don't want to say horror stories, but if you've heard any kind of issues or things that you can share about these kind of multiple locations and some of the problems. Alex, I'll start with you.
Yeah, definitely. You did highlight some things that I speak to merchants about on a regular basis. One thing I specifically see often is the inventory management and not having a unified platform. So when you don't have all of your either physical locations or, as mentioned earlier, Dean, a physical and your online under one system, you're working with third-party apps to create that bridge. And what I've heard in terms of feedback, again, from the merchants is that they're not the most reliable, whether it's not updating in real time, it's taking 14 to 24 hours to update, things like that. So that's something I often see, and why a lot of merchants do discuss Shopify point of sale, especially if they're already utilizing us for online. Another thing that I love that you highlighted as well is the different locations in terms of geography. If I come to location 1 and you don't have what I'm looking for, but you do have location 2 in another state, on Shopify point of sale, you can easily just take a look, see what we have in terms of inventory, and actually ship from that store, all because you are unified. So I feel like there's just so much more opportunity in growing your business if your system is under one platform.
And it sounds like the secret here kind of underlying this is the data, right? You can have these different stores, but they all need to be kind of talking to one another, right? You need some way to make sure that the data is flowing in a centralized place. Spoiler alert, that's what today's webinar is all about.
And on top of having it all in one
Yeah.
centralized place, the having it at your fingertips, being able to just be on the POS and see exactly what's in these locations as well is just, it makes the customer experience so much more seamless.
Definitely. Patrick, what are your thoughts kind of from the agency side? What are we seeing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Alex, echoing what you're saying, that the ease of access to this data and being able to do inventory lookups for products across multiple locations has been something we've talked about with almost every point of sale client and prospective client that we've worked with. I would say that that data also is highly relevant on the administrative side too. So having an easy way to look up at what stores certain products are selling better to inform purchase behavior for restocking products. And then and not to give away too much, but even within at the in-store level, being able to understand in what different locations within the store what products are selling better. So we'll be previewing a little bit of what we're doing around in-store merchandising today too. So excited to share more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Really, really appreciate that insight from both of you guys. So again, what are we talking about here? Shopify, right? So all of these problems that we've highlighted, right? All of these issues, how does Shopify help with all this? And that's what we're hoping to show you today, right? We really want to say, if you've got multiple retail locations, you need to do everything we just talked about, handle your inventory, handle products. How can you accomplish this using Shopify? So let's take a look at some of the different sections. We only have an hour in the call today, so we'll kind of touch on some of the things. So if you do have any questions or anything that kind of pops up around that, definitely feel free to put it in the chat. Alex and Patrick will absolutely, we'll follow up with all of your questions, but we will pause in between each section and definitely give you an opportunity to kind of ask some questions. So let's pop into the first section here. Let's start right away, which is setting up multiple locations. For those of you who are familiar with Shopify, or maybe some of you who are new to Shopify, Shopify has the ability to create simultaneous locations from the one administration section. So you don't have to have separate instances of Shopify. You don't have to remember different passwords. You literally have one administration section, and then you set up your multiple locations as needed. So I'm going to pop over here to the Shopify screen. And this on the screen right now is the Shopify administration section. So anytime you have a Shopify plan, you have the ability to go into the settings here and start creating the different locations that you need for your particular configuration. Now I'm going to pause here for a quick second and pop open another screen here and show you that the different plans that Shopify has comes with different location maximums. So for example, if you're on the basic plan, you can have up to 10 locations. And you can see here from this little chart that it goes up depending on which plan that you're on. So that's one of the first things you're going to want to think about. If you're a location and you've got a lot of physical locations, you want to make sure you're on the appropriate Shopify plan to make sure you have enough locations so you can configure each of those inside of the administration section. So this is definitely an important number here. I would say remember that number. It could come in handy later. It's just a bit of a tip there for people. So in the Shopify administration here, if we go to the settings area, you can see here that there's a section called locations. And this is really the heart of setting up all of the different locations that you have for your retail locations. So if you see right now, I have 2 locations that are currently in my system. I've got my online store, right? So these are any sales that come through the actual e-commerce site. And I have 1 location here that I've set up, which is my store in San Jose. Let's say I'm a growing retailer and I go, wow, we are expanding really fast. We need to add 2 more locations, because we're selling, like hotcakes, and people want our stuff all over the place. So it's actually quite simple. You can go here, click add location, and you can now start setting up the information for that specific location. So let's say, for example, here that we've got a new store in New York. We're setting up a New York retail store. So I'm going to give it a name. And then we also want to give it did I spell it right? Retail. Isn't it fun typing in real time? retail. Then you want to put some information about the store. So I'm going to put the address for the store here. Let's just come up with some location that's hopefully in New York. West 34th Street. There we go. So we'll put in the location information for this one. And then most importantly here, you can see that there's a checkbox that says, are you going to fulfill orders from this particular location? So if this is going to be an actual retail store, a place where you're going to be fulfilling orders, you want to make sure that that is checked. And then really it's that simple. Once you've set up that location, you hit save, and you'll see now, if we scroll here, that the point of sale says, hey, you can now start selling from a point of sale from this particular location. So if I was to go back to my locations listing, you can see I've got the store, I've got my online store, and I've got my store here in California. So it's that simple. So if you want to add another location, I'll just do it real quick. You can very simply say, great, let's add another store here in Los Angeles retail. Pop that in. And put in a shop here and hit save. So we've just created two new locations, I should say, in our list of locations. So we're telling Shopify that us as a merchant, we now have 4 locations from which people are buying product, and we're going to be selling product and taking orders. So let's now say, okay, well, I've got these locations set up, and now what? And what do I do to it? You now have the ability to take your product and your inventory and assign it to each of those locations. So here in the Shopify administration, I'm going to go to the products area. Let's just pick a random product here. Let's just pick this cool looking hat that we've got here. So if you recall, when I first set up the store, we went to the locations, I only had 2 stores set up. I had the San Jose store and my online store. Now I added 2 new locations. So all I have to do now is click on this edit locations box, and I can now say, okay, you know what? This New York store, just by clicking here, is going to start selling this hat. Now, I don't have to select all the locations. Maybe the Los Angeles store isn't going to sell it, or maybe it is. It definitely depends upon how you're merchandising your products. But for this scenario, let's just say all stores now are selling this particular product. It's that simple. So anytime you add new locations, the inventory is going to detect that. And now you can see on the screen here, all of the locations become available with its own unique inventory counts. So you can see I've got this Los Angeles store, I've got this New York store, my online store, and the San Jose store now all have their own unique availability for quantity. You have committed quantities, and you can start either manually adding or you can start transferring inventory to that particular location. Let's say, for example, for this New York store, you needed to start with, maybe you already know you've got maybe like 20 units in stock. It's that simple. I can just hit 20, hit save, and boom, now that pops up. So from kind of a centralized location, kind of having a central place for everything, it's really that simple. You set up your locations. Now you can go to each respective product and decide which products are stocked at those locations. You select the locations and you add quantity. So from an administration standpoint, the Shopify admin is now your central unified location where all that information is shown here. And now you don't have to have different systems. So before in the past, maybe you were tracking quantity with one system at the New York store and the Los Angeles store had another system. You don't have to deal with that anymore. All of it's available right here from this administration screen. I'm going to pause, as we will be doing kind of throughout the way, just seeing Patrick, just curious if anybody has any questions about locations or setting up locations or anything that we can kind of say or show around this.
No questions have popped up at this time, but I did just put another call out to the audience. One thing that jumped into my mind, though, as far as the inventory being synced up between the online store and all the physical locations, how does this play into buy online, pick up in store functionality? Does this make it easier for when you're selecting the pick up in store option for you to actually be able to see what stores has this product available for me to come in and pick it up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to pop back over to the Shopify screen here. So once you do have multiple locations set up, you can now pop back into your settings area and go into this shipping area inside of settings. And so from within here, you can decide where you're going to have buy online and pick up in store, and which of those locations are going to offer that. So you can see here, I've gone into settings, I've gone into the shipping, and now there's this area here called pick up in store. And so by clicking into here, you can see that it sees all of my locations. And at the moment, I've only designated that the San Jose store offers pickup. So you, of course, have the ability to tell Shopify, well, which one of these locations are in fact going to offer that, because you might not have it at all the locations. So it's really cool that you can go here and designate. So let's say, for example, we said, hey, you know what, the New York store absolutely is going to offer buy online, pick up in store. So all that we need to do now is click here into the retail area. It's a simple little checkbox that says, yep, this store will in fact offer pickup. And now you can kind of put some details around that. How quickly is it going to be ready? Ready within an hour, ready within 24 hours, or whatever the case may be. So this is information that is shown to the customer on the front end of the store, on the front end of the e-com store, so they can see, oh, cool, it's available at New York. I can pick it up in about 2 hours. That sounds great. So you just hit save, and now if we go back, you can see that retail location now shows that it offers pickup. So anybody purchasing from the online store, the e-com store, and they're looking at a specific product, they'll say, oh, look, I've got it at New York and I've got it at San Jose. Each of those locations offer a buy online kind of pickup in store. And I know that's definitely a real popular trend here. I'd like to kind of bring it back to the team. Alex, are you seeing that I guess the BOPIS, as they like to call it in short, right? Are you seeing that being a real big trend these days of people wanting to buy online and pick up in store?
Definitely. Everyone wants to make their shopping experience as easy as possible. I know that sometimes I even get overwhelmed going into a shopping mall per se. So if I can buy something online, run in, pick it up, it just makes it so much easier.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely something we see a lot. From the agency side, people are asking us to do it. So it's definitely a popular configuration that we're seeing a lot of for sure.
Definitely. And if I could also add in, sorry, Dean, one more thing that you had highlighted. You had mentioned locations, and when it comes to fulfilling from either the back end or creating another location, I speak with a lot of merchants that utilize their warehouse, let's say, as another location. The fact that you can set up an inventory dedicated to just that, as well as even if you're doing pop-up events as a business owner. I know that I've spoken with merchants in the past who are doing a bunch of pop-ups in the summer to create locations. Dean, how you showed it is just perfect. It's easy. You can turn them on. When you're done with your pop-up, you could just go ahead and turn it off. So again, just having that seamless integration between all the different moving parts of the locations is super helpful.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. Great insight there. Appreciate it.
And we did have a slew of other questions come in, Dean, if we've got time for one or two more.
Yeah, it's all about questions. Let's do it.
Perfect. So Leandro asks, how do you set or can you set a default location for a product? So I don't know how this, I guess, is this something that Shopify allows, like default locations for products? And what does that actually mean?
Yeah. Alex, you want to talk about that at all, about kind of setting that up?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of setting up a location, you can tie a item to a location and have that as either the top location. So if we're talking about buy online, pick up in store, and I only want to be able to pick it up from location 1, then that'll be your location. If let's say I want to pick up an item and there's 5 left in location 1 and 4 left in location 2, if before my item is fulfilled from the default location, it'll move to the second location. So you are able to structure that how you want your locations to be set up for BOPIS. Does that answer the question?
I think so. It did for me. And then I guess there's another question here that's kind of interesting, more around like bulk actions as you're going through this process of adding new stores and configuring products for the different locations. Another question from Leandro: are you able to add new locations and multiple products at the same time?
Add location and multiple. First, you would go ahead and set up the location, but if you're looking to do a bulk import, yes. What's nice with Shopify is you're managing all of your inventory through just the sales channels. So whether you want them to show in just one location, online and in store, or all locations, you have the functionality to pick and choose and do that in a bulk edit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. From
okay, and then I'm just going to kind of Oh, sorry, Dean,
Oh,
go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say, yeah, from what we've seen, from the agency side, typically, you create the locations first, and then the CSV exporter lets you literally just kind of put them in there. So actually, bulk editing is quite simple. It's just a matter of adjusting the CSV file.
Great point.
Nice. And hopefully this answers, we had Dylan Flipkid and Joseph Reinshagen chime in with similar questions, but I think it addressed that. What if it sells from a different location, but they want to pick it up at a location near them? So I think all of that is dictated by your settings within the Shopify admin and that's both based on inventory levels and also just where that product is in terms of availability by location, and then those options would be presented on the front end of the online store. Is that correct?
Correct, Patrick. You hit the nail on the head.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. And then I guess just to round out this last question here, can you see the inventory updates in real time when something is sold? So I think I can jump in with and just give a thumbs up on that. So you'll be able to see real time updates on inventory, committed inventory, sold inventory across all locations, the online store in real time at all times. Is that correct? Can I get a confirmation on that?
Confirmation, thumbs up. Good job.
Done.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And that's something that's very easily demoable too. So if I pop back over to the Shopify area here, so any product that you have, you've got this screen here that shows you the locations and shows you kind of an overall picture. But you also have this really cool feature here, which is the adjustment history. So if you click on this link, you can now go in and see all of the different adjustments for that particular product. So you can see any order that was placed, the amount that was committed, the amount that was on the order, and you can cycle through. If you use this drop down here up in the upper right hand corner, you can cycle through the different locations. So you can say, okay, well, the online store, this is the adjustment history for that. If I click here, look at the San Jose store, oh, cool, look at that. Now you can see all the different adjustments and everything for that particular location right from within here. So yeah, so like we said, thumbs up, a lot of great insight and information around seeing exactly where the inventory is and how much you have left.
Yeah,
All right.
and Dylan did follow up with a quick tag on his last question. So if the store near them doesn't have the item, what happens? So I believe it just wouldn't show up as an option for BOPUS, correct? During the online checkout, they wouldn't be able to select that store. For whatever reason, either it doesn't carry that product or it's not currently in stock.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll show, actually, it's a great segue here. We're going to pop into the point of sale in just a second. We'll show how, and I think Alex kind of alluded to this earlier, where one cool thing with having everything unified is this kind of endless aisle concept. So if somebody does walk into one of the retail locations, you can actually see the inventory at another location and say, great, why don't we place an order for that other location? And that's definitely something we'll show here next. So why don't we pop back over here and start talking about Shopify's point of sale and how the point of sale ties into the locations. So I'm now going to pop over here to my super cool point of sale interface. So for those of you who might be new to the point of sale or you've never seen it before, this is the tablet view that you see that the staff member would see. So for example, at your retail location, you're going to have the staff team that's working at the counters or kind of walking around the store. This is their interface. This is the actual UI UX that they're going to see. And this is Shopify's point of sale. For those of you who already have retail locations, this should look very familiar to you here. This is the main UI. So you'll remember a moment ago, we created locations, multiple locations. So this particular location that we're looking at on the screen now is my San Jose store. So I've logged in and I've said, this is my San Jose location. And you can see here, if I go into the point of sale and I check, you can see that this store is set up for San Jose. If I click onto the location setting, you can now see that there's actually other locations. So I could conceivably set up this tablet to be the point of sale for any of these locations that you're seeing on the screen here, right? This could be the retail store, the New York store. For sake of this particular demo, we're going to pretend that this is the San Jose store, and you can see it's got a little check mark. So it's basically saying everything that I'm seeing here is relative to the San Jose location. So if I go to the products, I'm now going to click on the products here. I can say, let's say someone is coming into the shop and they want to purchase, let's go back to that crazy looking little hat that we had before here, right? They want to purchase this particular hat. So I can click on the hat And you can see that there's inventory information that's shown on the screen here. Shows you on hand, shows you how many I have available. Now, because we've got this really cool kind of unified commerce thing happening with Shopify, you'll notice there's a cool little section here that says available at other locations. So if I was to click on this, this would show me the quantity for that specific product that's available at any of these other locations. So that question that kind of popped up a little bit earlier, let's say somebody did kind of pop into the San Jose store, and let's just say for sake of argument here, maybe they're from New York or something, and they're saying like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be flying home. I just happen to see this store. We can say, you know what? We have 20 of these here at the New York retail store. Why don't we go ahead and place an order for you so you can pick it up at that New York retail store? And this is a perfect example of how, because the point of sale is location aware, because everything is unified, you can now do this for any location. So this solves that kind of big problem we talked about earlier, which is how are you going to know your inventory? How is your bookkeeper going to be able to kind of keep track of everything? Well, this is exactly how. All of your information is unified. All of the quantity levels, all of the products and everything are unified into this particular centralized unified commerce, as it's called. So you can do exactly that at any point in time for any of the products, right? If I click on any of the other products here, let's look at this soccer shirt. Maybe somebody wants to buy the green one. You can say, well, how many do I have available for me at other locations? So this will give you all the information that you need to know. So you can basically place orders and even send online orders if need be as well. Maybe somebody says, well, I don't want to pick it up in the store. Can you just ship it to me? Well, sure, absolutely. We can place the order here at the San Jose location, even though it says I have none, but I can actually send this as an order to the particular customer right from the point of sale. So again, that's a really cool thing about having everything unified. So let's talk about ways that this unified commerce can actually be taken to a whole other level. So let's go back again to this particular product, this hat product that we've been looking at from before here. So you can see I'm in the San Jose store and I've got 12. And you can see that, you know what, the online store has 50 of these. That's a lot. We don't really sell it a lot online. I want to transfer some of that inventory to my San Jose store. And this is something that's going to happen quite frequently. If you're running a multi-store, a multi-regional, multi-retail business, you're going to find yourself wanting to do these transfers actually quite a lot. So we want to show you how you can use Stocky to handle that. So I'm going to pop out of the point of sale and back into the Shopify administration section. And inside of Shopify, there's an app called Stocky. And this is Shopify's app. This is the Stocky app right here. And I happen to have it open in this window tab right here. Stocky is going to be the centralized management system for things like purchase orders, stock transfers, inventory. All of that can happen from within Stocky. And because it's unified, we can create transfers. And then on the store, the actual retail location, they can manage, they can see the inventory, and they can handle the receiving of the product. So it's a really, really cool system. And again, for those of you who do multi-regional, multi-locations, you probably do this on a daily basis, right? You're transferring inventory, you're receiving inventory. So how do you handle that? Let's take a look. So I'm going to create a transfer here using Stocky. The Stocky app, again, if you don't have it, you can download it free from the Shopify App Store. It's available right now. So I'm going to hit transfer. So like we said, the online store we know is the source, right? That's the origin location that has it. And I'm going to transfer this to the San Jose store. So I'm going to create a transfer. And we want to do that cool hat that we have. So I'm going to type in hat here to try to find that beanie hat. There it is. And so let's do a simple number that's easy for us to remember. Let's say 10 units. So I want to transfer 10 of those, and it shows you here that there's 52 available at the online store. I want to transfer 10 of those to, as it shows here, the San Jose store. So I create this transfer. You can see that it says 52 are available, want to transfer 10. And then you've got some information here. So you can put in tracking information. So let's say, for example, you're going to create a package, because remember, we're physically transferring product, right? So this isn't like virtual inventory. This is actual physical hats that need to be shipped from one location to the other. So in this case, we want to transfer it from our online warehouse to the San Jose store. So there might be a tracking code, a tracking number that goes along with it. So this is where, I'm just going to put in a fake number, of course. This is where you can enter that tracking information into this transfer order. And you can say that, hey, you know, I did it. I'm the employee who did it. You can have different reason codes in here, different reasons. You can say, you know, stock transfer or for some other reason, or discount code or event or something like that. You can put all that information here in the transfer order, or the TO as it's sometimes called. And then basically once you have it filled out, you click mark that it's in transit. And so what Stocky does, which is really cool, is that Stocky is now managing that transfer. So it's saying, okay, I need to reserve 10 units for my online store and prep those to be sent over to my San Jose location. And because we're using the Stocky app, we've installed on the point of sale UI, right on the smart grid as it's called, we've installed the Stocky app. So if I pop back over to the point of sale interface, you can see on the bottom left here, I've got a tile that's called inventory transfers. And you'll notice there's a little 1 that has popped up in the corner of this app. That's basically telling me that, hey, there's an incoming transfer coming to the store. So let's say, for example, I'm a staff member who's working here at the San Jose store, which is where this POS is connected. I'll see on the screen, oh, look, there's inventory that's coming into my store. So now by clicking on this tile, you can see that there is a transfer coming to you from the online store. So now you can manage that transfer at the San Jose location via this transfer order that was created inside of Stocky. So when I click on the tile, I can see the inventory transfer. You can see the transfer TO number that's been assigned. I can click on it, and now it's showing me information. It's saying, hey, you have 10 of these beanie hats that are showing up. Here's the tracking information. So at some point in time, a box is going to show up, you know, at the San Jose store, and someone's going to say, hey, I've got it. The 10 hats have in fact arrived. And so that's where you would come back to this interface, click here and say, you know what? I've got 10 units. So now you can click here and, you know, use the increment and decrement to say 10, or you can click to say you could accept all, or maybe for some reason, maybe somebody shipped it incorrectly, or they forgot to put 10 in the box and maybe there's only 7. So you can set as kind of a confirmation to say, yes, something arrived and here's how many I have. So I can say, hey, for some reason I only have 7, and that's going to alert, you know, back on Stocky to say, hey, this is only partially received. What happened? So there's cool workflows that can be kind of kicked off because of the fact that you've got the ability to accept and send these transfers from the system. To make it easy, I'm just going to hit the accept all to basically say, hey, we're confirming that all 10 have in fact arrived. I'm going to hit done. I'm going to say I've got all 10 have been received. It's going to do a little confirmation pop-up, and then boom. So now those 10 units have been transferred, and you'll see that my incoming transfer area now is blank. It's saying, hey, there's no more incoming transfers. You can click here and see the received transfers. So these are showing you any previously received ones. And you can see here, here's the 10 that I just received. And so now that stock has been transferred. So if I go back now to this product, so let's go back to this product that we have, you'll notice that, let me pick the right one here. You'll notice that now we now have 10 more than we did before. We only had 12, and now we've got 22. So that product has been transferred from the online location. We've accepted it, and now you can see that's available for sale because I've received it and I've accepted it in my San Jose location. And if we pop back over to Shopify's screen here, going back to kind of the question that was asked earlier about how can you confirm, how can you see all that? If we were to go back to this product here, I'm just going to reload this product, and we want to confirm that all of the transfers and everything have happened, I can go back to that adjustment history, if you remember that from before. I click on the adjustment history. I'm going to make sure that I'm in my San Jose store, which I am, and you can see here, 1 minute ago, Stocky moved 10 units into the store. You can see here we had 12, and now we have 22. So if you're running multiple locations, if you have multiple stores, you have probably done this process before. This is probably preaching to the choir, as they say. But if you're kind of new to it, this is something that most multi-location stores do, like I said, very, very frequently. This is a really important process of managing your inventory, managing your stock, and making sure you have the appropriate quantities on hand for each of your respective locations. So I want to pop back over here to the team and kind of have a little insight about what we just saw. I know this is a major thing we definitely see a lot. Alex, just curious, how does like the transfer orders and purchase orders, does that come up a lot in terms of a need that you're seeing from multi-regional merchants?
Every conversation I have, Dean, every conversation. So the fact that you just went through that in a span of 4 minutes just really shows, though, again, how easy and seamless it is to have the systems speak to each other. And I just love the layout that Stocky gives. On top of that, having it accessible on your iPad. I feel like a lot of merchants that I speak with, they're like, oh, I have to remove someone off the floor to go to the back computer and do all of our transfers and receiving and whatnot. To be able to do that so mobile using your iPad or using your handheld is just another way to free up some more time for you to focus on what really matters to the business.
Cool, thank you. Patrick, do we have any questions at all about any of this transfer process or anything that we just saw?
Yeah, we had a couple questions come in. Maybe we could just run through them, starting with the most recent one, which I think we addressed, but just to confirm. Jefferson asks, can I see stock values on my point of sale device for different locations? I believe that's a yes. I believe we showed that. Just to confirm, if we can get a thumbs up on that one.
Thumbs up, you're confirmed.
Thumbs up. And then I think we also got Edward's question answered as well. So asking, can you partially accept transfers? So that was, definitely on the screen. There's an option to select how many of those hats did in fact arrive. Did some of them fall off the back of the truck, or maybe they're defective, whatever the case might be. But definitely the receiving location has the ability to dictate how many of that item they did in fact receive. And then one question from Dylan, which actually is a throwback to the earlier question around buy online, pick up in store. I just want to make sure we get his question answered. So he asks, what happens if only 2 items in the cart are able to be picked up? So for example, if there's 3 products in the cart, they want to do buy online, pick up in store. 2 of those products are available at their favorite store down the street, but one of those products isn't. What happens? Does it essentially force them to select a different fulfillment option? Does it create some sort of error? Alex or Dean, could you maybe shed some light on what actually happens on the checkout experience online in that case?
Sure.
Yeah, from my understanding, and I do want to confirm, unless Dean, you happen to know, but it may just ask you to select a different purchase option. So instead of doing buy online, pick up in store, maybe that third item is able to be shipped from somewhere else, but I can confirm that.
Alex, I don't know if maybe you know the answer to this, but the Shopify did recently talk about those new split shipment options that are available now. Could this potentially play into those new split shipments to say these 3 are buy online and this one can be shipped? I know that's a super brand new feature. There's not a lot about it, but could this be an option for that, you think?
That definitely could be an option. Yeah. Let me confirm on that, but that's a really good shout out, Dean. I believe that could solve our problem there.
Cool. Great questions, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, and Dylan Flip Kid, as soon as I have confirmation on that, I will find some way to reach out to you. If you're registered for the webinar, should be able to contact you that way, or if you want to shoot me a private message with a different email address, we're happy to get that question answered for you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for the great questions.
Thanks so much from Dylan. Yeah, you're welcome, Dylan. Thanks for asking great questions.
Cool. All right. So let's get to the kind of third and final piece here. So we've set up our locations. We have product. We've transferred product into the store. We've accepted the product, as we just saw. We've accepted the transfers. So what comes next? What's the next step? And often a piece that some stores don't necessarily always think about, but it's the merchandising step. So what does merchandising mean? That sounds like it's kind of a generic term, but in the kind of parlance of retail stores, merchandising is actually a very specific thing. And that refers to taking the product that you have and putting it in your store. Now, in the online store, right, if you've got the e-com store, that might mean, putting something on the home page or making a collection and making the collection available like on a listing page or something, right? It's how is the product displayed? In a retail location, that's a very different thing, right? You're going to have physical shelves, right? You're going to have aisles and rows and potentially upper floors and lower floors, right? So merchandise is extremely important. And as we mentioned earlier, different stores are going to have different traffic patterns. They're going to have different needs. So that sweater that you're selling might not sell well in nice sunny, California like we are here, but maybe you're up north somewhere and it's wintertime, right? And it's snowing and they do want the sweater. So that sweater should really be displayed or merchandised at a different physical location in the store. So when you have the Shopify point of sale, this is a really cool thing to being able to say, well, hey, is there a way for us to track the point of sale and then figure out which physical location is actually selling best? There is actually a cool way of doing that. And we'd like to show you how you can do that with your multiple locations using this really cool app called Select Merch. So with Select Merch, it's going to tap into the locations that you've previously created. So if you remember before, we've got our New York store, we've got our LA store, we have all these different stores. And so it's going to allow you to create what are called placements. And so these placements is basically kind of think of like a text outline or a text display of the locations that you have, the physical locations that you have in your store. So for example, if I look at this San Jose store, and I can easily jump to my different locations, by clicking from within the app here. But if I look at my stores that I have here, I can say, well, the San Jose store, I've got a window display, I've got different aisles in my store, I have different racks in my store, I have different rows, right? So I'm basically kind of diagramming all the different physical places where I potentially display a product. And then what you can do is you can then take any particular product and say, I'm going to now designate where that product resides in my store. And then the Shopify point of sale is going to track every time that product is sold. So let's go back to this beanie hat again that we've been looking at before. So I'm saying that in my San Jose store, this beanie hat is merchandised. In other words, it's physically located on the upper floor in aisle number 10 on the middle shelf. So this is the placement. This is where I've assigned this particular product. So it's keeping track that on 7/6, this is the last known designation of this particular product. So now the Shopify point of sale is going to have the app installed. So if I pop back over to the to the point of sale, you can see here I've got the Select Merch app tile installed here on the point of sale. Now, because this is a retail point of sale thing, it's going to say, hey, okay, every time an order comes in from the point of sale for this particular product, I want to track that location that was sold at that particular time of the order. So if I now go back to this particular product and I go down to this reporting area, the reporting area will allow me to look at the San Jose store that I've got, pick any product that I have. Let's go find this beanie hat again. And now I can select a range and say, okay, in the last 3 months, how much, what is it now, July, we're in August? Oh my gosh, it's almost August, everybody. In the last 3 months, how much have I sold of that particular product and where was it located? So you can see in this case back on July 3rd and July 5th, it was in the upper aisle, but on aisle 12 on the lower shelf. And here I had it in aisle 10 on the upper shelf. So this is basically tracking the physical locations where you've moved the particular product. So this is a nice way to be able to say, where is this product selling better? So if I zoom back over, let's go back to this product and kind of look at a different view. If I look at this adjustment history view for that product, this kind of shows that same information, but a little bit more in kind of a chart form. So I can see, hey, when I had it in aisle 12, I really only sold 2 units. But when I had it in aisle 10, I sold 5 units, right? And I made, $150 versus $60. So this is a net positive for us as a retail location. So we really want to try to keep that product in that particular location. So this, again, because of the fact that Shopify has these different locations, you can now diagram each respective store that you have inside of your locations. You can then set up the physical placement for each of those stores and start tracking those sales. So now you can start letting the other locations know. So for example, you could tell your Arizona store, like, hey, when we put this hat out in the window, wow, it really sold well. We think you guys should do that. So this is how you can share information across those different locations, diagram the stores, and ultimately the app will show you where the best locations are, what are your top selling products. So if I look at my dashboard here, you can see that across all of my locations, this is the best placement area. This is the best selling product that I have. This is the store that's kind of selling the best, and it'll show you what our, kind of your top 10 are. So this is a way to track information, get information. Because we're unified, because we have all that information in one place, you can do it all from within here. And because it is talking to Shopify and it is talking to the locations, you can basically select the locations that you want to track. And if you recall, we did create kind of those 2 new locations. So I can say, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and track Los Angeles and New York along with my San Jose store. I'm not going to track the online store because the online store doesn't have a physical location, right? The retail stores do. So I can choose to track those. I can save it. So I'll hit save. And so now when I go back to the placements, now you can see that I've got all of my other locations available to me. So I can basically set up the placements for each of those respective stores. So again, this is a great way to really kind of close the loop on everything, which is saying that I've got inventory, I've got multiple locations. Now I want to know when I'm merchandising those products, when I'm putting those products on the shelf after I've received the transfers, where do I put it? What sells best, what's the best location, and it can all be done from within this app. So this is a cool app. We like it. Definitely check it out. It's in the App Store now, and it's multi-location aware, works with all your products, works with all of your inventory, gives you the ability to close the loop on products and merchandising. So I want to pop back over to the team here. We're almost at the end of this particular webinar. We've only got about 5 minutes left or so. Any questions that have popped up or any insight about anything that we've kind of seen so far? I just want to kind of do a wrap up here for multi-locations and inventory and merchandising. I'll definitely open it up to the team.
Yeah, I mean, the in-store merchandising possibilities with Select Merch, I think, are really cool, and it just opens up a bunch of ideas. Obviously, if you have the same layout of your store in multiple locations, you can do real-time A/B testing for certain products in certain seasons. But also, we're speaking with a few different landscaping companies, and these folks have properties and stores which are not square feet but acres, right? So we're talking about these massive operations where product placement is everything. So just a lot of really cool ways where you can get as granular as you need to, but definitely draw some great insights out of that. And then a few questions did pop up around Select Merch and in-store merchandising. So one, can you track the same item at different locations? I believe that's a yes, right? For the different retail stores, the product would just be placed in a different location using Select Merch, and you'd be able to track it accordingly. Is that right, Dean?
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually, probably one of the best ideas for it, right? How well or how not well does a product sell at a different location, even though it's in the same exact spot? So if you have it in the window in one store and then window in the other store, which location is selling better? So that information is available.
Gotcha. And then one more follow-up on that. So what happens if I move an item to a new physical location? So if I move that hat from the window spot to back aisle number 3, how does that manifest itself in the data?
Yeah, so it tracks, and I'll maybe just pop over. It's probably easier to show than tell here. So if I go back to the placements for a particular product, every time that the product itself moves to a new location and you move it to a location, let me scroll down here to my San Jose store. Every time you move that particular product, it's going to remember. So if you recall that I showed here, you've got this assigned date. So the Shopify app is always going to remember the last date of any change that you have made. So let's say, for example, I decide, today, which is the 25th, I'm going to move this to the top shelf on aisle 2. Let's just say, for example, right? So I'm going to change the placement. So I have now changed the physical placement. So it's going to remember that. And now when you go back into that product, you'll notice that the date has been updated in terms of the last assignment date. So it knows that as of 7/25, any order that gets placed is going to be at this new location. So when you look at this adjustment history, it's now going to track and say, okay, here's July 25th at 11:55 a.m. You have 0 sales so far. So hopefully throughout the day it's a positive change, but it will definitely track and know that you've moved it and track that information for you. Cool. All right. So
Perfect.
popping back here. So last chance here. We only got a few minutes left. Any other questions or anything at all about that? I do want to pop up the reminder that the prizes, let's get back my cool little prize screen here. We do have prizes that we want to give out, that kind of cacophony of Sunrise and Shopify box of goodies that's going to be sent out here. It's all cool stuff, very, very cool stuff. So as soon as this webinar is over, we'll be sending out a follow-up email with a question. And the question is definitely something we talked about during this particular webinar. So if you were paying attention, hopefully it should be a very easy one. The first person who responds with the correct question will win the prize, and we'll send it off to you. I do want to put one more reminder that the webinar series that we just mentioned will be concluding. We have one more, which is going to be on August 8th, and it will be the same people. Alex has been very gracious to take part in that one as well. We're excited to have her. So that will be in a few weeks, and that will be the last in the point of sale series. We've done the previous one is already online to check it out. This one, of course, will be available to stream, and the recording, as soon as this is over, it will be up. And then the retail checkout one for the August 8th, and that's where we're going to talk about how you can add really cool things during point of sale checkout, adding checkout data, adding custom fees, assigning customers to checkout. So really all the things that you need to do during that checkout step, that's what this next one's going to be all about. So with that said, we are here in the last 2 minutes. Definitely want to extend a huge thank you to Alexandra for being part of this webinar. Thank you so much. Your insights are amazing. We will be seeing you in a few more weeks for the next one. So thank you very much for that. I'll open it up to anybody who wants to wrap up.
Well, we didn't get any more questions in, but Constantine did send an emoji of a slot machine showing a jackpot. So we hope we get a jackpot for everyone today. And yeah, keep an eye out for an email following this event with a recording, so you can share it amongst your friends, family, and colleagues. And please, like and subscribe to the channel. In addition to these webinars, we're constantly putting out great new information around Shopify and digital commerce overall. So please follow us here on our YouTube channel.
Cool. All right. Well, again, thank you all, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Alex, for being part of it. Again, one last plug. The webinar on August 8th is the next one, and we hope to see you all there. So thank you all. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.